Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Craig Antonucci. He is the Chief Experience Officer for AutoCar Trucks. AutoCar Trucks has 700 employees. They are America's oldest specialized severe duty vocational truck brand. We are talking in this podcast about the latest and greatest in AI. We're talking about some of the more customer centric brands and also product centric brands and what the difference is. We're looking at some trends and customer experience, and we're talking about the auto industry overall. Please enjoy Craig Antonucci. Hey, Craig, how are you? Welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I've always wanted to be on this podcast, so here I am.
What? That's so awesome to hear. Um, I think that makes you very unique, but I hope one day every customer experience professional will know the Modern Customer Podcast. But we actually got to meet in person a few weeks ago in Austin, and we got to chat a little bit about your business and your career and what you do. For our audience that don't know you, can you just share a bit of the highlights? I know you kind of started in manufacturing, but take us back to the beginning. How did you get your start?
Sure. So we actually met because I do speak at some shows as well, and I actually quote you quite a bit. So I wanted to come up and tell you that, and that's how we ultimately end
Oh,
up meeting. So right now I work for Autocar Trucks, probably the oldest brand in the United States that nobody's ever heard of. If you start looking around at trucks, we do heavy duty vocational vehicles, so things that become uh, dump trucks, trash trucks, cement trucks, pumper trucks, things like that. You start looking
my
around
son's favorite
you,
things in the whole world,
right?
as I told you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's right. That's right. And I think I promised you a little truck too at some point in time, which I think I have on my desk somewhere. Um, but anyway, we are the only direct to consumer brand of truck out there. If you start looking while you're driving around, you're probably going to see us, and you never knew we were there, but we are everywhere. We compete as a direct to consumer, and we compete on customer experience, which is why I exist in the ecosystem here. Our competitors, they are utilizing a dealer network where we provide support, provide sales directly to our consumers. So our customer experience is really, really important to us. Before I joined Autocar, I worked for a BPO called BPA Quality. We were a contact center, customer experience consulting, quality monitoring technology type company, and we worked with some of the biggest brands around, as well as some small companies. One thing I always learned working in that industry, working for those types of customers, is that large or small, everybody wanted to deliver an exceptional customer experience, and we had to help them get there regardless of what their headcount was, whatever their budget was, whatever their customer base was. They all wanted to really leverage our expertise and deliver that. And when I first started talking to Autocar, that's one of the things that interested them because I didn't know a whole lot about trucks when I first got here. I knew about customer experience because we had delivered it to a lot of different types of businesses. And the goal of bringing me on was to deliver a customer experience that was not all that unrelated to what people are used to in their normal day of life. The technology that they use, the way that they interact with the companies that they patronize, things like that. They wanted to get a little bit closer to that because we wanted to deliver a customer experience that was familiar, that was comfortable, that really drove on what we call a culture of raving fans. I'm sure you've heard the book Raving Fans. That's a bit of our Bible here. So that's how I joined them. Before that, probably the earliest stage of my manufacturing career came back to a company called Vermont American. We made router bits and drill bits and saw blades and things like that. And I worked in manufacturing as a product manager. So that kind of bookended both sides of my career right now. So I had, manufacturing on both sides, customer experience in the middle, and here I've just mixed it all up and created a career out of it.
All right. So today, if I wanted to buy a Mack truck, I could just go on your website and do that.
Well, I hope you can't buy a Mack truck on our website because that would be one of our competitors. But you can come to our website and you can go buy an auto car
Oh,
truck.
auto car
Yeah,
truck. Okay, I
that's
know the
correct.
least about this out of all the topics that we could talk about, Craig. Cars and trucks. I hate to say it, but I'm a complete beginner. I'm happy to learn. I want to learn about trucks. Let's just talk about some of the things that you're working on now as Chief Experience Officer. Like, what does your scope look like?
Well, let me start it by telling a story because that's what people like us do. We tell stories about what we're trying to do, right? When I
Absolutely.
first, yeah, when I first joined Autocar, what they do is they have you do a ride along in one of the vehicles so you can understand what it means to be one of our customers from a use standpoint. And I went to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I rode with a refuse driver. His name was EJ. And I get into the vehicle with EJ, and I look over at EJ and say, "Okay, EJ, tell me how you feel about Autocar." He said, "Man, I love driving the Autocar." Now, being a CX leader, thinking that I have to deliver a delightful experience, I'm thinking, "Okay, my job's done. We're good. You love the Autocar, but seriously, EJ, why do you love the Autocar?" And he goes on to tell me, "Well, at the end of the day, my body doesn't hurt, and I get to go home and play with my kids." And all of a sudden, that connected the truth of what we're trying to deliver here is that we have to deliver EJ that product, that service that allows him to do that. Because he didn't look at it like a truck, he looks at it as an extension of his life that allows him to provide for his family and get back to them safely, healthy, and happy. And if we failed him anywhere along the way, whether it's delivery, whether it's support and services, whether it's anything, then EJ doesn't get to drive our truck. And then he gets to drive one of those other brands, which you just mentioned. And then his body hurts and his kids are upset at us. And when I talk to the people within our organization, I try to have a conversation with our team members and other departments within our organization about who's your EJ? Who is the person that you are making a difference in their life every single day? And I'll even go to the point of having conversations with people like in finance. You would think, well, how is finance related to customer experience? Well, if a purchase order doesn't get approved on time to purchase a replacement part that helps us get back a vehicle back on the road and working, then EJ can't drive our truck today. And now his body's going to be sore. Now his kids can't play with him because he's laying on the couch with Advil in him. And now he's mad at us, right? So all of a sudden, just a little thing like a purchase order has a huge experience in the customer experience. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the primary thing. On top of that, obviously, we're looking at creating new ways of doing things because we are direct to consumer. We look at processes, people, and technology and finding creative ways to leverage those to create competitive advantages, whether that's how we deliver, where we deliver, who we deliver with, or what it feels like when we deliver it.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you talk about that you want him to be a comfortable driver because I mean, even just sitting for long periods is very hard to do. So you're backing
Mhm.
into your brand by looking at the customer first. And it sounds simple, but in practice it's very hard. And when we met, we were at a conference, you were there to learn about technology. Being a CXO, you've got a lot on your plate. You've got the customer, you've got data, you've got technology. I know you're in this period now where you're researching technology, or maybe you're always interested in technology, but let's just talk about what you're interested in now. I know you were there to learn about AI. What are some of the trends that you're paying attention to now that you might not have been interested in a few years ago?
Sure. I mean, AI is the biggest one for sure. I've met with a lot of different vendors who have some iteration of AI. I'm finding that at least in the CX space so far right now, no one really has it figured out all the way. What I've seen has been a little bit of like Chat GPT laid over a CRM and a knowledge base right now, and then delivering that kind of experience. For us, it goes a little bit deeper. We because we're direct to consumer, one of our competitive advantages is that you can talk to us directly, and our customers really like that. They like that there's a voice that they can come to and get help. But at the same time, we have the same opportunities as everybody else. That there are little new nuances in our business that could really be made simpler by automation and technology. I'll give you something real simple, like schematics. So a schematic is a wiring diagram of the vehicle, and a lot of times a technician will need that document to be able to fix something, to make sure that they're connecting the wires in the right places and they're not shorting something or breaking something. So they want to make sure they're doing the right thing. And providing technology that allows them easy access to that document securely and in a customized way is really, really key, because we deliver thousands of iterations of trucks, whereas our competitors will deliver a lot of the same kind of thing because we're custom. We have to have a real personalized experience all the way to the I need help. I need a piece of information about my specific truck. How can we make it easier? And over time, humans have done that work, and there's no real value add to a lot of that work. So we're trying to automate that. We're trying to really leverage the whole idea. If it's low emotion and if it's simple, let's automate the heck out of it. If it's high emotion and difficult, let's find a way to get you to a person and an expert. And then if it's low emotion and difficult, or high emotion and easy, then let's give people options and things like that, which is a really good framework that we're working in. So, basic automation, uh, staying in front of the customer. We are looking at AI. If we want to talk about AI, I would say one of the biggest needs that I see for our business, and I see for a lot of our customers. I mean, I talked to a lot of people the last two conferences that I was at about AI, and unilaterally, all of us were saying, I have a lot of tribal knowledge in my organization, and every time someone leaves, that knowledge leaves with them. And I need a really great way to capture it. And sometimes I do a good job documenting it, and sometimes I don't. But how do I use that later down the road? Sometimes you lose it. Sometimes it's in this random document in a folder or a SharePoint or a knowledge base or something, but it's just not really digestible for the next person coming in that needs to use it. And what a great way for AI to say, hey, AI, I have all these databases, I have all these documents all over the place, and I need to construct some answers here that I can use and give our customers ready access, or really empower our people to give faster answers. Because if we can, as Autocar or any company that wants to deliver a customized experience, if we can leverage that kind of technology to give us answers faster and still maintain that personalized touch, then we win and we leverage the technology like we want to.
That is really an interesting use case because that's a big issue now. And you would think with modern technology, if you lose an employee, you wouldn't have to lose everything that they know. And you
Sure.
do, because we haven't really gotten organized enough to figure out how to retain and how to keep this data. You're a data expert. What are some of the things that you are always looking at to make sure your company continues to be client centric? What kind of data points are you looking at?
There's an example that I give a lot of my presentations about this specific thing. There's two pieces to it. There's the streetlight effect about looking at the data that's available to you and then finding the data that isn't readily available. So for your viewers, if you haven't heard of the streetlight effect, there's a drunk person looking for their wallet on the street, and a police officer walks over and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I can't find my wallet. Can you help me? So the police officer gets down on the ground and helps them look, and they don't find it. And the police officer says to the drunk person, "Are you sure it's here?" "No, I'm not sure it's here," the drunk person replies. "Then why are we looking here?" the cop says, and the police officer asks him again, and the drunk person says, "Well, because this is where the light is." And often you get lured into that. I have all this data sitting in front of me. This is the answer. And we see
Mm-hmm.
that in a lot of our customer satisfaction surveys. The other piece is a case that I got from a long time ago. United Airlines did a survey on what do customers want. Airlines are, I will tell you what, I see these things on LinkedIn. I see podcasts. People love to talk about airlines. In fact, I just posted about an airline experience. It's really the epicenter of customer experience because people can find plenty to complain about. But they did a survey, right? They did a survey. They said, "What do you want?" And people said, "We want bigger seats. We want more legroom. We want more comfort." And of course, if I inherently asked you, "Would you want more legroom?" Yeah, of course I want more legroom. But the problem is that the dollars didn't follow, and customers were talking and responding with what they actually wanted by paying for the cheaper seats. They were more price sensitive than they were legroom sensitive. So we try to look, and I try to get our teams to look at the behavior patterns of our customers. So what happens to them when they've had a good or bad experience? What are the next three things that customer ends up doing? Is there a buying pattern? Do we not hear from them? One of our company presidents always begs me to get our team to go look for those customers who are suffering in silence, those ones we haven't heard from. Go reach out to them and talk to them and find out, why aren't you talking to us? What went wrong or what went right? Are you just swimmingly happy and you're just not sharing it with us? So those are, when we look at data, when we look at customer feedback, um, behavior trumps any other data point. Data point just is a place to start looking and really question and take a very Socratic method towards the data itself and ask, why is this answer right, or why could it be wrong, and then that second part, why could it be wrong, go answer that question.
So are you a United? Aren't you a Delta customer? Didn't I read that?
I did recently fly in Delta, so a lot of Delta flights come in and out of here in Birmingham. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because I'm a United frequent flyer, and I got to interview Oscar Munoz, who wrote a book, the former CEO of United, and
Okay.
he did talk about what you're saying, that they thought with this Polaris that this upgrades to business class, the upgrades to food, better, and the seats are great. Like if you're flying global, and you
Sure.
get the opportunity to fly on those seats, they're amazing. However, what customers really wanted was on time departures and arrivals. That's what they wanted. They
Yeah.
wanted just the airline to do what they say they're going to do,
Deliver on your
which
promise,
often
right?
doesn't happen. Yeah, and so I think it's also like, are your operations clean? Like, are you delivering on your basic offering? And just so
Yeah.
many brands just aren't just getting the basics right. You're out there studying brands. You're speaking at conferences. What are the brands that you love to talk about, or that you're a customer of, that you think are doing a really great job? And what is it that they're doing? You could just pick one that you really like.
Oh, well, there's a couple. I actually just met the guy that runs CX for Zappos, and they're a classic case study. I'd love um, the the book that Tony Heisch wrote, Delivering Happiness, and I actually make all of our team read that. And I actually challenged him. I said, hey man, is what you're doing, is it transferable to every industry? And and he said, yeah, sure. And he kind of gave me some examples, and we got into a little bit of debate. But I love the passion of what they do and the empowerment they make. I'm also a big Apple fan, just from how they think differently. You've probably read Simon Sinek's book, the Why and the Infinite Game and all that. Have you read those books?
I've read Start With Why. I haven't read The Infinite Game. However, I did see him walking around at an Adobe conference. And I was very excited this year. I've never seen him in person. But yeah, I mean,
Oh, cool. I'd love to meet them.
with yeah, I'm familiar with Start With Why, but I haven't read Infinite Game. Is it good?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Probably one of my favorite reads. He gives so the basic concept is that organizations either play finite games or infinite games. Finite games are ones that end, and infinite games are ones that you could just you want to keep playing the game. And the businesses that persist play the infinite game. And he gives an example of Apple, where you remember the Zune that Microsoft had way back. It was a competitor to the iPod. Well,
No, I don't.
that's okay. Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here, but they came out with a really great media player, and it was pretty fantastic if you remember it. And Simon was in a limo with an Apple executive, and he had just gotten back from a Microsoft conference where the Zune was released. And the example that he gives in the book was that he showed this Zune to the Apple executive and said, "Look at this; it's pretty great. It might beat your iPod." And the Apple executive was like, "Yeah, you're probably right. It will." It didn't seem exciting. He never understood in that moment why the Apple guy wasn't freaking out. Well, the reason is because Microsoft at that time was playing the finite game. They were trying to build a product that was just simply better than what Apple had produced. And Apple was playing the long game. They had already moved on to the iPhone at that point in time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate companies like that that do that, that play that the game to persist. And that comes down to CX in a lot of cases, right? I mean, what we do is at the hub of that our ability to persist. Like, for example, the entire automotive industry, trucks, cars, whatever you want, has suffered a significant issue with supply chain, and we're not the only industry that suffered that. So when you're dealing with customers and you can't get their replacement parts, or you can't build their vehicles, or you can't do things because the parts just don't exist, what's left? The experience, right? The service. How can we go and above and beyond to keep you going outside of having the physical part? And we've done a lot of work in the last couple of years trying to do that for our customers, mostly successfully, in a very, very trying time. So at the end of the day, you're playing the infinite game. And I respect those companies that aren't short-sighted and look that long game.
So one of the challenges, Craig, for the auto industry that I see is that they don't always control the entire experience. I mean, you're direct to consumer, which I think is a huge advantage.
Sure.
In contrast, is Toyota. I bought a Toyota Highlander because I trusted the brand. I bought my car in 2022, a Toyota Highlander, as I mentioned, SUV, a hybrid, really good car. And they keep this dealership in Thousand Oaks, California. They keep calling me because they want to buy my car back, like 6, 7 times. I finally said to the sales guy, "You're harassing me. Stop calling me. This is really bad." Of course, me, like, this is very bad for Toyota's brand. You really shouldn't do this. But I said, "Please stop calling me. I don't want to I like my lease. I don't want to sell you my car back." And it's like he couldn't get past, like, they don't have the inventory, obviously. So instead of innovating, they're just salespeople, and it's a bit two dimensional where it's like, I need to sell a car. Like, they're not customer experience advocates where they're thinking, well, how can we add more value? What other services can we create?
Yeah.
That's my recent experience with dealerships. In contrast, we have a Tesla where it's interesting. They are very product centric. The product is good, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're amazing at experience either.
In terms of the service itself or the product itself, because that's two different
The
parts of the
product is,
experience.
so I think, like Apple, the Tesla product is amazing.
Yeah,
Car that runs on software, so many firsts. And right
sure.
now I'm reading Elon Musk's the biography about him by Walter Isaacson, which is amazing, talking about he was a very and is a very engaged product centric CEO. But as far as the service experience when you walk in, it doesn't feel as high touch as even Toyota. When this on the service side, they greet you. At Tesla, you kind of feel like you're at a cool kids club, and you're lucky that they're talking to you. And
Yeah.
it's like no one's talking, everyone's just looking at each other like, okay, don't say a word, just be cool. This is Tesla. So it's interesting. It's a great product, but the service, I wouldn't say is super high touch. So it's interesting to me,
You,
the auto industry. I mean, what are your thoughts about the state of the auto industry and customer experience?
well, I think your observation is a really great one that we should dig into a little deeper because right now Tesla has the lion's share of the EV vehicle. It's the desired product. And you strip it away. And if they don't have that customer experience, once the other competitors come along and do, then that's going to leave themselves vulnerable, right? Which is where we live as Autocar. We can't play the volume game. We can't play the same game that some of the larger OEMs compete at. So that's why we chose to compete on the customer experience, because when all the dust settles and you need a friend and you need a truck that's reliable and a service organization that's going to be there for you, we're your team and we're that group. Not to mention our product is like that. It's the premium product on the market. Has higher ROI. It has higher uptime than anybody else. All the things that you could imagine that we want to promise. But we recognize that the customer experience is what's going to be there when everything else isn't. So we deliver that. So I think your observation is really important for anybody in automotive to pay attention to right now. Is that once all of this supply chain thing clears out, once the interest rates settle in on where they are, it's going to be a dogfight again for customer experience. Toyota is a good
Yeah.
brand. Have you had generally good experiences with Toyota overall? I mean, they make great vehicles.
Very, very. That's why I, like, personally was angry at the salesman, because I'm like, they're doing such a good job. Like, you're going rogue, man. Don't go rogue. Like, this is a good brand.
Yeah.
I like my car. They're very nice. I had an issue where I brought my car in and they forgot to do one part of the service, like the oil change. They forgot to do something that was due. So I had to come back and bring my car. And I spoke with them. They offered to tint my windows, I think, up the street somewhere else. I live in Southern California. It's very sunny. I have little kids. They offered to tint all my windows on my car for free. And
Wow.
I love them. And I told my husband, like, Toyota, a lot of people where I live drive fancy brand car. I don't want any of that. I just want reliable Toyota. The wheels aren't going to fall off. Like, I could probably drive that thing for
Right.
50 years and it would still run. So it's that brand promise that, as a working mom, I didn't have time to go to 20 dealerships and try 20 brands. So I just went with the one that I knew that I could rely on. However, the
Sure.
sales guy, they need to get rid of. he's he's going rogue.
Well, that's consistent with what you said earlier about airlines is that people simply just want you to deliver on your promise and do it well, right? And then add into that,
Yeah.
fail fast and recover well. And I just had an example of that with Delta Airlines, which I think you referenced on LinkedIn that I shared, that I showed up to a connection 1 minute late. The door closed 1 minute and the plane was right there and they wouldn't let me on the plane. And that's a policy that's so frustrating to me because they knew I was on the connection. They knew that it had arrived at the gate, but they closed the door anyway. And I got there a minute late, even though the plane's right there. So back in the
But
old
then they
days,
rebooked you through the app. Wasn't that the story?
yes, that was the
Like,
coolest part. I just pulled up the app and literally they had already rebooked me onto the next flight an hour later. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to click, okay, I'll take the flight. And I was blown away how cool that was, how quickly they recovered. And there's a great case to say, where does automation really help your organization? Where does the technology help your organization? Because before that technology was configured that way, and I believe they invested a lot in that. Before that was there, you'd have to go to the desk or call the 800 number and sit on the phone for 20 to 30 minutes so you can get an agent. And it would be a very frustrating situation just to get on the other airline. Or you'd have to go up to the next. I mean, how many times have you seen 5-10 years ago, someone yelling at one of the folks at the desk at the airline? It's just horrifying for everybody. It's not a great experience. So not only did you reduce my friction as a customer, make my life easier, you probably helped the employee engagement as well because now they don't have people yelling at them, which is great for everybody.
I know. And that's a bad experience. Even for other customers sitting there, like watching a flight attendant get yelled at, you feel so bad
Yeah,
for them. You're so angry at the
yeah,
customer. You also don't want to get hurt. So you're like, probably shouldn't get in the middle, but it's really a bad vibe. So, yes, if companies can create these back end, these operational efficiencies, it's better for everyone, for employees, for customers,
yeah.
everybody.
I was going to say 120 years ago, we were going across the country in stagecoaches and grandma would die, right? That's the old joke. And now we're complaining about flying across the country in a couple hours.
Oh yes, yes. There's a book called, I think, "Stumbling Upon Happiness," where they say that your happiness, you kind of get comfortable with where you are, and then you just complain, even if like you're so much better off than you used to be. Everybody kind of achieves that homeostasis and lose. They lose perspective. But anyway, let's talk about you. Let's get to know you a little bit better before we
Okay.
hop off the podcast. Let's start with first question. You ready for rapid fire?
I'm ready for rapid fire.
All right. All right, Craig. What is the most important part of your morning routine?
Getting up and exercising and hydrating.
Perfect. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Peace.
What's your favorite type of vacation?
Favorite type of vacation would be either golf vacation or one with my kids. Anywhere with my
Okay.
kids.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Jesus.
Okay. Let's see. What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
I'm a wine snob, so I'll pour myself a glass of wine and read a book.
All right. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Understanding that everything and anything, good or bad, is going to end at some point. So appreciate the good while it's here and realize that the bad is going to pass in a couple moments.
All right. And if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Forward.
Great. Well, this has been so fun getting to know you. I'm so glad I got to meet you in Austin, and I hope we'll get to do more customer experience podcasts together. Will you come back on my show?
Absolutely. And I hope to see you speak again. I enjoyed it tremendously, and hopefully I see you at some of the events that we may cross over as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Craig. Well, all of you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on social media, including LinkedIn, Instagram, and X.